What's going on? I hope you all are good. So, The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 8, the finale. Now, right off the bat, I just want to say that this episode was very enjoyable, much more enjoyable than the previous episodes that we've had. The action scenes were great, the CGI looked really good, the sets looked okay. I really liked the acting, and of course it was the final episode, so there was no filler. Just straight action and everything was plot driven. This episode had to bring everything together and tie it up neatly, but in my opinion it tied everything up a bit too neatly. It didn't feel like there was any stakes in this episode, there was no cliffhanger, and surprisingly there was no tension. It never felt like the characters were in trouble, it just felt like there was a lot of badass things going on, but no one was really worried. Din Djarin's attitude, he seemed pretty chill. They didn't really show him panicking or worried about anything. And honestly, I could say the same for the rest of the characters. There wasn't really any worry, which means that the viewers aren't that worried either. Anyways, so that was basically my rough overview of the episode, because there's many things I want to talk about and I want to hear all of your opinions on it. Okay, so the first thing I want to mention is Moff Gideon's death was so ridiculous. And it was hilarious to see. And if he is truly dead, which I don't think he is, but if he is, then that was the worst way to go out, considering people actually found it funny. And it came off so abrupt, it just happened out of nowhere, even though we knew that the ship was falling onto the base, because Axwos decided to bring the ship down when all of his comrades are still in the base. Like, he didn't even try and call them through the helmet or anything. He just said, you know what, this ship is broken, I'm gonna bring it down onto my comrades and everyone else underneath me, which was ridiculous. But back to Moff Gideon, the fact that he died in that way was just not it, in my opinion. They really failed to make us feel that weight of Moff Gideon dying, and it was in such a stupid way that I don't even believe that he's dead. Another thing I want to mention is the Praetorian Guards, because they're meant to be badasses, but they have proven to be otherwise this whole time throughout both appearances in this show. People said that they were badasses for killing Paz Vizsla, but I don't see what's so badass about them ganging up on one person who's already been through so much fight. He's been shot like 100 times, and then they come in at the end 3 against 1 to basically end him. So the fight versus Paz Vizsla was so underwhelming, and even though they look badass, they don't come across badass in the scenarios that they are put in. But also in this episode we see them again, and once again it's 3 against 1. Apart from when they have to face Grogu and Din, they will always decide with the most allies, so they were never really in danger. They were always just ganging up on people basically. And me personally, I do not see anything badass about that. Paz Vizsla was near death, and they come over and just start kicking his ass and finish him off easily. Then they gang up on baby Grogu and he was toying around with them. And then Din Djarin comes along and whoops their ass too, which by the way makes Rey and Kylo look weaker than they're meant to be, even though they're not meant to be as strong as they are because they didn't really train. Well, at least Rey didn't, but enough about that. Okay, so the next one is the Mandalorian jetpacks. Now of course you saw that one episode where they chased after the kid that they let get kidnapped. If you can even remember that episode, considering it was 100% filler. But in that episode they chase after the child and the jetpacks run out after travelling a mile, and they basically say that it's happened before and that they can never catch up to the creature. Well, in this episode, Axe travels from the ground all the way up to space, and it absolutely does not make any sense considering what they've already told us in a previous episode. So that just contradicts everything they told us about the jetpacks. And yes, maybe you can say that in that episode the jetpacks were already half drained or whatever, but they did not tell us that, and so we're not going to go with that. Okay, so the next one is the Darksaber getting destroyed. Now the Darksaber has survived many situations. It has existed for years and years and years, way before any of these Mandalorians were born. So I do not understand how, after everything the Darksaber has been through, Moff Gideon can just crush it with his hand. Like, what is the handle made out of? Because I'm sure we all assumed that it was made out of Beskar, but apparently it's made out of Star Wars plastic, which was just so unneeded. The scene wasn't even badass enough for that to happen. It's like the only reason they got rid of the Darksaber is to give the Mythosaur more meaning. And to be honest, the only way it could have made sense in this episode for the Darksaber to get destroyed is if Bo Katan went and got the Mythosaur and brought it to the battlefield. That's the only way you can make sense of it. Other than that, it's a waste of time, and it really was not needed. Even if they make another Darksaber now, it will not be as badass, because the first ever Mandalorian Jedi wielded that Darksaber, and so did Darth Maul, one of the most badass, coolest characters in Star Wars. He wielded the Darksaber as well. It just had so much meaning and story behind it, and now it's gone. They better not create another one. And since I mentioned the Mythosaur, why did it not show up in this season? After all that build up of talking about the monster, it didn't even show up in the final battle, which is something we all assumed would happen, considering how important the story made it seem. So the fact that it did not show up, honestly, I'm not even surprised. We've seen similar stuff like this in these Star Wars shows, where there's just plot points that lead up to nothing, or there's just no payoff. So not seeing it in action was very disappointing, as it means that we have to now carry on this plot point throughout the next season, if that even happens. And so yeah, me, like many of you I'm assuming, did not like that it didn't show up. Now, something else that bugged me and didn't make any sense was the armorer out of nowhere believing that Bo Katan did actually see the mythosaur, because when Bo Katan first mentioned it, she did not believe her at all. She thought she just imagined it and therefore thought it was a sign of something. But then the next time they talk about it, the armorer just believes her and acted like she never said that she thought it was all in Bo's imagination. Okay, so now this one is very frustrating, because we all thought, the whole fandom thought that there was going to be a spy, four Moff Gideon, who are pretending to be allies to Din Djarin, Bo Katan, and all the main characters that we love. Everyone was theorizing, many thought it'd be the armorer, some people thought it was Axe, but in the end, there was no traitor whatsoever, even though they were leading to that. I mean, the armorer has horns in her helmet, which literally has to mean something. You cannot just give her that armor design for no reason. There has to be thought behind it. But honestly, now I've seen the ending, it just reminded me that I would not be surprised if they didn't think that far ahead to even consider the armorer even being a traitor, or anyone else, like at least make someone the traitor, considering that there was many hints that there was one. But during the episode they literally acted like that was never the case whatsoever. And now on to the final problem with this episode, which is the ending. Din Djarin and Grogu basically going back to level 1. He's going back to being a bounty hunter and dragging Grogu along. And honestly, in my opinion, I think the story has taken us way past that stage. The amount of things he's been through and the things he's seen, it just doesn't feel like it makes sense for the story for him to just go back and do some bounty hunter missions. Now don't get me wrong, I was worried about how they're going to finish this season, because many of us thought that Din was going to die, considering all the stuff with Pedro Pascal and Kathleen Kennedy and all them behind the scenes issues. So I'm happy that Din Djarin is still in the show, he's still alive, and I'm kind of happy that they've taken him away from that whole situation with Bo Katan for now, and basically have given him a new beginning where they can now plan and decide where to take the character from here, and they can get more creative with it, considering they can go in any direction. But it's just weird to me how he goes back to doing what he was doing in season 1, and now he lives in this desert igloo. And honestly, now I think about it, if they don't plan on continuing this show, he's just going to go back to doing his low level missions that don't really have any high stakes or anything to do with the galaxy as a whole or the fate of the galaxy. It's also a very safe way to end it, but I understand it considering the situation in Disney where you don't really want to commit to another storyline in case another problem goes down. So they have left it in a very safe spot that will prevent them from any upcoming problems they could have, because I really do not want them to commit to a certain storyline only for that to have problems and then they have to change it last minute, and then we'll get a bad season 5, or it will just affect the story in the future negatively. Alright, so there were my problems with the episode, and I did mention some problems with the season overall, but in conclusion, I have to say that I enjoyed the last 2 episodes, but they do not save the season at all for me. It's the worst season of the show so far. There were many problems, and the last 2 episodes just did not solve all the problems. They played it safe, and they didn't answer all the unanswered questions. I had a somewhat good time with the show, but it could have been better. I don't normally give a show a rating, but just to end this off, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10, just to summarise it up for you guys. But what did you think about the last 2 episodes? Do you agree or disagree with my points? Let me know down below in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one.
Hey, motherfucker.
Man, if you don't, get out my fucking way. No, boss. Oh, what the? Oh, fuck no. Yeah, I'll come back. I'll come back tomorrow. We actually get to go in. Oh, wow. This is where Luke got frozen. No, this is where Han got frozen. Oh, this is cool. What happens if I jump in there? Do I die? Guess we'll never know. Vader, get out. Let's fight. Let's fight, Vader. Come on. This is sad, but you're gonna go out like this. 1 bullet left, and you're dead. Come on, you're better than this. Come on, give me a real fight. Come on. Okay, B is to dodge. Okay, get used to it again. That's the block. Okay. Whoa. Whoa, buddy. Okay, he's better with this dude.